of HR for Hearst Television.
Thank you, Melissa. Hello and welcome to today's webinar. So today's webinar is provided free to our members thanks to the generous sponsorship of Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, Kelly Dry and Warren, and NCTI. We also would like to thank the C2HR champions, the Cable Center, Charter Communications, Comcast, NBCU, and Warner Media. Our champions support programming and resources throughout the year, including the C2HR Knowledge Center, a curated collection of 500 articles on timely HR topics. You can access the Knowledge Center at www.c2hr.org. Today's speakers are recipients of the C2HR's Social Impact Award, and they are going to share their expert insight on the topic of corporate social responsibility. Rahman Khan, VP of Community Involvement for Charter Communications, Jessica Clancy, VP of Corporate Social Responsibility for NBC Universal, Kimberly Gilmore, SVP of Corporate Social Responsibility for A&E Networks, and Kevin Martinez, VP of Corporate Citizenship for ESPN. On behalf of C2HR, I thank each of our four speakers. Rahman, over to you to set the stage for today's interactive discussion.
All right, thank you, Catherine. Thank you, and appreciate C2HR for putting this important topic together on social good at work. We're super excited to be sharing with you all some hopefully valuable information and learn a little bit and learning how we're making a difference in our local communities with our respective organizations. So again, thanks C2HR, thanks Catherine, and thanks for everyone for joining in and listening, and we're looking forward to having some dialogue today. We want to start off, again, I'm Rahman at Charter Communications, and we have three excellent panelists you just heard Catherine introduce. And what I want to do is I'm going to ask each one of the panelists to kind of introduce themselves through their program. So it'll be really quickly. We want to just kind of get you used to, get you to hear more about what these different companies are doing in the social responsibility, corporate citizenship, or wherever we call it in that space. So we're going to start off with my friend Jessica. Jessica, tell us a little bit about NBC Universal.
Sure, thank you so much, and thank you for having us. NBC Universal is one of the world's leading global media and entertainment companies. Social impact at NBC Universal is very much driven by our employees. It really is embedded as a way for all of our employees across our portfolio of news, entertainment, theme parks, film studios, to identify significant ways and impactful ways in the community to give back. We have brought this to life through our campaign called Comcast NBC Unites. And it really is our commitment to use all of our platforms, our people, and our programming to create positive change in our communities. We know that, through sharing our time and our talents in areas that are germane to who we are as a company is where we can show up the best. So a lot of the work that we do, to no surprise, is really around empowering the next generation of storytellers and thinking about, where in LA, in New York, in Miami, in London, in many of our smaller markets, we are strategically partnering with organizations that are opening up young voices, especially young diverse voices, providing platforms and introducing young people to life in the media and entertainment industry. And in addition, especially for the HR crowd, we've spent the last 18 months or so really focused on building out a stream of programming in our talent lab, which is our university, that looks at the core constructive leadership principles and how we can align those with social impact and service. And so that's been a really wonderful evolution of our platform and thinking about how our leadership training is aligned closely with service and service learning. So look forward to talking more about that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jessica. And I love the visuals here. Very, very cool. So next up is Kimberly Gilmore. our SVP of Corporate Social Responsibility at A&E. Kim, what do you got to share with us to open up?
Thank you. Thanks, Rahman. And it's great to be here with everyone. I'm here talking today about our Mission to Honor campaign, which is a campaign that we started many years ago to honor veterans and military families. And the kind of home of the campaign is the History Channel, but we've now extended it to cover across all of our A&E Networks brands. And, this program was started over 10 years ago, and the goal of the program was to inform people all across the country about what service means and what veterans do in our communities. And we started with a program called Take a Veteran to School Day, which was connecting schools with veterans in their communities. And we've worked really closely with our cable partners, like Spectrum and Comcast and many others on this campaign. And then over the years, we've grown that campaign to involve many more of our employees at our events by involving their the veterans and military members and their families. And also by partnering with many organizations in this space. So we now, Veterans Day, as many people know, is November 11th, but this is a campaign that we extend across the year and in many different kinds of ways. So through events, through special initiatives, and then through partnerships with organizations like Team Rubicon, which many people may know about. They're an organization comprised of veterans, and they give back to communities by doing disaster relief. So for instance, when COVID-19, the pandemic was hitting all of our communities, Team Rubicon was on the front lines of helping communities with testing, with food distribution, all kinds of other methods. So they have been one of our go-to partners on our social impact broadly. So we really see this as a 360 degree campaign that has a bunch of different components to it, but also that goes on 365 days out of the year. And this is just a short video that we produced, tying into the history campaign. One of the things that we're also trying to do is entertain and inform people with stories that are important from our nation's history. So this is just one of the new spots that we did this year. And the reason I wanted to show it is that we had big challenges. I'm sure everybody has read about the way that the pandemic has affected Native communities. Native American Heritage Month is also in November. And we had planned to do a project interviewing all of the remaining Navajo code talkers. They're in World War II played a pivotal role in helping to break code and leading to victory in World War II. We were going to be recording and telling all of their stories, but we kind of had to take a different turn and ended up doing an audio interview. So this is just a really short clip that kind of shows just one part of the creative execution of our campaign.
My name is Santana Sandoval, and I am 97 years of age. I am one of the 4 remaining Navajo code talkers. When I was 18 years of age, I enlisted in the Marine Corps. The code talker's job was to devise a code that was unbreakable, and we did it. The Navajo language has never been written, it is unwritten still. The language is secret to the people of the Navajo Nation, so here I am. I keep it.
So that's just one example. I can talk more about that campaign, but excited to be on the panel today, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kim. Very, very informative. That's sounds like I want to sit down with a cup of coffee and just watch that for the rest of the afternoon, but I guess we had to get back to work. But no, it sounds very interesting. All right. Next up, our final panelist is Kevin Martinez from the Dun space, ESPN. Kevin, what do you got to share with us?
Thank you first for allowing us to be part of this. An honor to be part of this esteemed group. And FYI, I'm part Navajo, so Kim, I'm excited to see what that looks like. So thank you for that, and your company's commitment to tell that story and the history of it. It's pretty amazing. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about our program, less of a public service announcement on ESPN. I think you all probably know us pretty well. I'm here to tell you how we're trying to use corporate social responsibility, which we call corporate citizenship at ESPN. And as you probably all know, we're part of the Walt Disney Company, to try to reverse some of the thinking about what service means to your community, from the perspective of volunteerism to service. And the reason that's important to us is that in last year, in September, we celebrated our 40th anniversary. So we're a fairly young company, and we've grown very quickly, and our brand is much bigger than who we are to a large degree. But it's very interesting that our mission statement is to serve the sports fan anytime, anywhere. So that's the company's mission statement. And I lead the group that oversees all of cause marketing for ESPN and all of our corporate responsibility, citizenship, volunteer programs, and et cetera, sustainability. But for us to have the mission statement be service oriented is the ultimate opportunity to really try to develop a contract with your employees, with the sports fans, with our communities, and deliver on that contract. And so we have a group, our volunteer activation core team is called Team ESPN. So last year, we also, as you know, we got a new president about 2.5 years ago, Jimmy Pitaro, and he came from the Walt Disney Company, and he came in, and one of the things that we sat down with him was to look at how corporate citizenship is part of the culture of ESPN, as it relates to particularly the mission statement, serve the sports fan anytime, anywhere. We also wanted to reintroduce Jimmy as the new leader of ESPN. Our presidents had been, had long tenures, and so he is brand new to our company. So culturally, it was a great entry point. And the other piece of, we're very, very, very fortunate that Jimmy is an extraordinary example of a servant leader, and also that he believes very strongly in corporate social responsibility and how that is part of the business. It's not an incremental piece, and then it must be embedded within the company. So what we're going to show you today, or tell you about today, and I just put up 2 pictures, is kind of the variance of like the thought leadership from volunteerism to service. We created something that was, I think, unique at the time. Instead of just, doing impact data of like how many volunteers and how many hours and, some of the outcome pieces for storylines, we wanted to change the whole vernacular around volunteerism, and what volunteerism can sometimes be episodic, and that service is a core commitment. Service is about what you believe in, your purpose, and how that can be threaded through the culture, but also how that brings you to belong at ESPN. And so here are two examples of, kind of the service and volunteerism that you see. And I think these are really important as we move forward in our discussion, certainly, is, volunteerism is fantastic. It is impactful. It is credible. It is very important. And it's sometimes, from a time perspective, it's all that you have. Service is a commitment over time. So military service, as it relates to our healthcare professionals, et cetera. It is also not always charitable by nature, right? It is about your commitment to your community. And so these 2 visuals kind of give you a perspective of how we looked at it. This is just finishing up a house build on the right, and getting our team out there to, do hammer and nails. And, I used to be president of the Home Depot Foundation, so that's what we knew, and we could build some houses. The picture on the left is about a much more different type of conversation, which is that, we're basically celebrating kids coming into the first day of school before the pandemic and letting them know that their community was with them, and that we want them to learn and to be valuable assets to their community. And with that, we also created some citizenship curricula that went in there that talked about community and citizenship. But the second is not necessarily charitable. And that was the one thing we wanted to share with everybody, that it's not always about giving a donation, and it's not always about volunteering with an organization. And the third and last thing that I just want to share with you is this allowed us to do something very different at the time, which was to create something called 40,000 acts of service. And we took our regular grant making system, we turned it on its head, and we said, please tell us what service looks like. And so we created a goal of 40,000 acts with our anniversary, and we ended up hitting 80,000 acts. But it was everything from helping mowing a friend's yard. We have a lot of people to travel. You know, we had one person who literally everywhere he goes, he will stop at the ASPCA and walk dogs, as, you know, is his service to community, where he runs and brings them back so that they can get outside of the kennels. So just little things that allowed people to really discover that service was included kindness, included socialization to your peers. It included turning around and passing it on and buying a Starbucks for someone behind you in line. But it also meant the big pieces, like we were trying to help impactful pieces of helping people grow, work, live, and play in their communities, and have the impact that was going to be, you know, rippled through the community. So, you know, very excited about where we were able to generate this program and change some of the vernacular of service and kindness and opportunity in our communities.
Yep. Thank you so much for that, Kevin. We appreciate that, and thanks to all of you for bringing out those issues and those respective areas. I mean, this is work that I know we are really proud of, and work that we really are pleased we get an opportunity to do for our respective companies. Here at Charter, I mean, we created our kind of goals several years ago around how we impact communities, and we started out with, you know, just improving communities where our employees and customers live and work. And we wanted to just be real and authentic and genuine about being in those communities, which sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge, because we want to make that real impact and that authentic impact in the communities. But there's other times where there's also business needs, and there's work that the business might say, oh, I want you to help because this helps us do X or Y. Jessica, can you start off and talk about just how you balance that? I know some of the work, you know, you all do is around, you know, mostly employees, but there's also like other groups that are, you know, like Kevin said, maybe a marketing group, maybe other groups that are talking to you about the kind of work that needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think, you know, like all of us, we work in these sort of multi-dimensional, multifaceted matrix company, in our case, owned by Comcast, you know, which is a tremendous company in its own right. So, you know, everybody, you know, and NBC Universal, similar to, you know, some of the other folks, is really a bottom-up company, you know, meaning that NBC Universal has, in its own right, is not a consumer-facing property, but yet people associate, external consumers associate with the Today Show or NBC Sports or Bravo or a specific film. So, you know, the way really that, you know, we work with a lot of our different departments or marketing departments or whatever it may be is, you know, as it relates to NBC Unites, which is the campaign, you know, that I was referencing, our sort of main stake employee volunteering and social impact campaign. It really is a framework, you know, and like a lot of other companies operates as a place where everybody can rally around that ideal, rally around the sort of partnerships and diversity of opportunities that we have created, but there's always something there to create their own. And we are happy to sort of work with them on that. So there's those individualistic elements that are built into the campaign. It's certainly flexible, and that's internal. As it relates to external, you know, a lot of the work that our group is also able to do, similar to a lot of the other media brands, is we're able to think about our major properties and our big moments, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's, you know, Sunday Night Football, whether it's a specific film or TV show. And, you know, and some of you may have seen the special Parks and Rec that we did in COVID. We're still in COVID, but in sort of the March-April timeframe, where, you know, a lot of our shows were really excited about doing table reads and bringing those through a specific issue, in this case, food insecurity, and then raising dollars for a specific organization. So like a lot of folks, we really have the ability to leverage our talent as it makes sense for a specific cause, align, you know, across corporate priorities, but also align individual, you know, brands and businesses. And, you know, I really connected with what Kevin said, because one thing that we talk a lot about at NBC Universal is why you serve. And, we use that, and we use that vernacular within our talent lab, which I referenced in some of our training programs that overlap social impact and business impact, really helping people identify why they serve and what is their passion.
Yeah.
And one of those constructive leadership principles is your passion for the possible. And so we talk a lot about that and with our employees. And so I think all of that is important as we think about how CSR shows up at NBC.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Kim, what about you? Like, how are you all making sure that authentic kind of opportunity is out there to make a difference in those communities and still thinking about balance the business needs?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think service is a big theme here, which is an important one. And we think about our campaigns having, our veterans campaign is all about service, both in terms of the events that we do, that we get our employees involved in with veterans and military families, but then also teaching kids what service means, so that when they grow up and become part of our companies like ours, that's something that has been instilled in them for a long time. But I would say that when we first launched our veterans initiative, we felt that it fit in with our brand, and then on the history side, and then we also felt like it was something important that we could do that was kind of unique to our programming. It kind of fit in on all these different levels. And then as it's grown, what we have found is that even though our central goal has been corporate social responsibility and giving back, it also fills all these other business goals, in the sense that, it's our advertisers, we have a lot of advertisers that share this same commitment. And so whether those are advertisers who are specifically in the veterans and military family space, like this year we just did a big, we did a show and kind of integration with disabled American veterans, whether it's a group like them or it's some of our corporate sponsors like Rocket Mortgage that is trying to end veteran homelessness through providing mortgages. It's just an organic fit. And so we've found that all of those things kind of have clicked together over time.
And Kim, do the corporate sponsors come to you all first, or do you all kind of pitch and say, look, here's what we're working on, anybody interested? How does that typically work?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I think that that some sponsors are kind of like, they know that we're in this area and we do this work, and so if there is a connection, they come to us. But then we also are developing ideas constantly, and also we just have a lot of content in this area, and oftentimes sponsors might just see some content and that they feel helps to accentuate their brand attributes, and then they tag those pieces of content. So it kind of goes both ways. Yeah. And then sometimes we do things kind of custom, like in conversation with a partner sponsor about what goals they might be trying to meet. And then we happen to have something that fits that. But yeah, it kind of goes, it's a sort of a two-way street, but there are many avenues to kind of figuring out what those great partnership connections are going to be.
Nice. Kevin, what about you? And you're competing, and I don't want to say competing interests, but they're just different interests around the service, and then around, what else the business is looking for. Are you being leveraged in that way as well?
Yeah, so from our perspective, we actually have a strategy that is about integration, and it's critical as it relates to any CSR professional practitioner. It's one thing to be, an added value. It's another thing to be part of the discussion as you move forward, to be represented and accountable, for whatever issue you're bringing through the company. Jimmy, our president, has been really, really valuable, and putting our CSR team in as part of the questions that are asked when we're delivering major, programming, whether it's the NFL draft now, or, the work we're doing with social justice with our the Undefeated, and we're part of some dialogues, which is really interesting. And much like Kim and Jessica, we're kind of producers as well. So we actually produce content. We produce V Week, which is our Cancer Research Week, which we're doing right now. Veterans Week. We also do work with Special Olympics, where we're actually building stories and figuring out how to do compilations that with our advertiser sponsors, et cetera. I think the interesting thing for the integration piece as it relates to kind of the charge as it relates to this wonderful group of people about service and volunteers and for employees is to change the mindset of HR professionals and the rest of the company to be much more innovative, to use the same processes in the innovation that you would use for anything else in your company, for coming out with new tech, new storytelling devices, whatever it is. We need to apply those same things, because I'll be honest, I think employees are getting a little tired of putting on the t-shirt and going out, and it's episodic, and it's really wonderful. It's not that it's not working. It's just, we know that the next generation is saying that purpose needs to be more sustainable, right? I want to know not just what you believe in, but how you execute what you believe in, right? So from an HR perspective, I report into HR through
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
And so, that's a real valuable piece to engage employees, to enable them and to excite them, but also to integrate them, because that will also works through our employee resource groups and any number of things.
Yeah, real quick, Kim and Jessica, where are you situated? We report into a charter. We report into our chief diversity officer, who reports to a senior executive vice president who manages lots of different parts of the business, from communications to HR to even the programming world. So we're integrated in a lot of different ways. But how are you all set up? Kim, we'll start with you.
We report into our corporate communications. So corporate communications and CSR outreach have always been connected at our company, but then working really closely with, our president's office and HR, and then really across all departments. So I would say it's housed there, but it's really connected to every aspect of the company, and more that's the case. I think we're probably all seeing that with our companies, and these are two, the NBC and the ESPN are such wonderful examples of it, but that employees really want to feel like they're connected to this work, and they want to feel like they have a stake in it. And so, we try to make this part of everybody's platform and part of everybody in the company's mission, and really think of ourselves working broadly across all departments.
Jessica?
Yeah, we, similar to Kim, we report into corporate communications and CSR, into our EVP there, which reports us up through our overall corporate EVP. So we have that, we have the ability to work across all the corporate functions, all of the brand communicators. NBC Universal, is made up of 25 plus brands. And then we obviously work very closely with Comcast. So there's a lot of synergy across the organization.
Yeah. Good. So let me ask this, and you all probably knew this question was coming, but there's just two huge issues that have really obliterated everything that we thought we might be doing this year in a macro level, and then even down to our individual work. Of course, that is with COVID, the pandemic, and also to the proliferation or the expounded interests in social, because the issues aren't new; they just got a bigger interest around social justice. How have you all had to pivot in those areas and really address those within your frameworks that you had already created? Jessica, what did you all do to help in those kind of massive areas?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like a lot of companies, Comcast, NBCU has been working on issues that perpetuate inequities for many, many years. And so, this really gave us a moment of reckoning to supercharge our work. And so we did make $100 million 3-year commitment to extend our social justice efforts in areas that are really authentic to who we are and sort of how we show up. Generally around social justice, but certainly around digital equity, small business, and really equities as it pertains to arts and creativity and the media world. So, our position has been, how do we think about doubling down on the partners that we already had that were doing great work? We didn't necessarily need to go out and identify, tons of new partners, although we certainly did do some of that. But we have, taken a look at the partners, the strategic partners that we have in-house, how we can help them what did they really need for both their students and their programming? What else can we do? And then certainly brought some new partners into the fold in those areas that I referenced that were both sort of geographically important to our employees, so our employees could have a very important say in what we were doing, but also again really important to the work where we knew where we showed up the best in this conversation, and we know where that is, which is really leveraging our media, similar to the other folks on this call, being able to elevate the voices, underrepresented voices, dedicate specific channels, and then to Kevin's point, thinking about where in our pipeline are we continuing those hiring practices, those DEI commitments, again, that we, have had for 10 plus years, but we're able to really, supercharge, starting this summer. And I think really refocus people on the importance of the work, but also on the amount of effort it takes, obviously, to create any type of substantial change. All of us. And so, we're really aware of that, and so working with our partners across the industry as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely not a quick change. I mean, when we had to evaluate all the things that need to be done, I mean, some of these are historical. COVID just, was unexpected, really, and really changed the trajectory of just how we think about, everything from, what we give to whom we give, where we give, the timing, how we work with our employees. We had a big effort called Spectrum Housing Assist, where we were going out to the communities, into people's homes, right? We had to flip that whole thing, because not only did we not want to go in people's homes, we didn't even want to go around other employees and or even ask employees to go out. So really had to make some really seismic shifts around that. Kim, same thing for you, similar type of things. I mean, these are kind of massive issues, and I know we don't have time to really go through them all, but what kind of the big chunks that you all had to do?
Yeah, well, similarly, we had a lot of partnerships in place that already were pretty strong, but this kind of, in so many ways, we had to evolve, but also strengthen those relationships. But one of the things I was reflecting on a little bit is, when COVID happened, I mean, and so many of us in different ways we are both have platforms, but we're also content creators. So in the beginning of when the pandemic first hit, we really focused on safety messages, but really collaborating with people across the industry to share what were the most important messages, and then to further strengthen our partnerships. And for instance, with Team Rubicon. So Team Rubicon, a veterans organization we worked with for a long time as part of this Mission to Honor campaign, they completely shifted from doing all different kinds of disaster work to doing community work. And so, we were able to kind of be hand in hand with them and run their PSA and stuff. But one of the things I was reflecting on a lot is that, obviously over the summer, the movement for social justice and racial equity reached new crescendo in our country, and it's a very important movement to our company, to our employees. And so we had a town hall. We've done several hours of programming in a campaign called Voices Magnified that is illuminating people who are out there making solutions to these issues. And again, across our organization, we have just strengthened programs that were already in place and created new ones about diversifying our pipeline of talent, but also the companies that we work with and the vendors that we use. But one of the things I was reflecting on is that the way that the pandemic it really is a social justice issue too, because we see how the pandemic is disproportionately affecting certain communities, and then also low income communities, but how the fact that there are so many communities that are dealing with food insecurity is connected to the fact that there has been economic insecurity in some places. So these are issues that we really see holistically, and that we count on and on our partners to be closely linked with us to help lead us in the right direction, and put our commitments into the right place. But we've been really thankful that we have had these long-term partnerships with groups like the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and Feeding America and Team Rubicon and and so many others that are doing this important work that's often at a cross section and a crossroads.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Kevin. I know you all are part of HR itself, and so I know this issue is compounded. Again, I think as both Jessica and Kim says that you're trying to respond to the external needs and the external challenges that are out there to addressing the issues, but you also have to look internally and what does my workforce look like? Like, how are we growing our talent? Like, are we being as equitable as we could be within the organization? So talk about how you all addressed it both internally and externally.
Yeah, this you started with the word pivot, and that's chapter 12 in my book when I retire, because it is literally the word that we're all using, but we're understanding that the pivot means we need to be firmly placed in what our core values are and what our business plan is, and we move from there. So I think that's the key element, which is we don't just drop everything, because there has to be business continuity. But what we do need to do is make sure we pivot in the right direction to the next play. And so, what we got from the very beginning is we got direction from the Walt Disney Company, our new CEO, Bob Chapek. We got, here's how we're going to handle this. And he came up with 6 pillars of how we're going to do this. We took those, we moved them to ESPN, which is very type A, need some plays, right? And we developed those. And one of those was a community pillar, which is, this is how we will address those assets internally and externally. When we say community, we mean our employees as well. Well, it's no secret that many of the companies have been going through really difficult times, and for organizations like ours, Walt Disney Company, that have parks and resorts and cruise ships and sports where you have to convene, it's been hard. So the company has laid off close to 30,000 people. And so how we manage to do that with integrity and accountability and transparency is key, because the first rule of corporate social responsibility, as we learned back in the 70s, was take care of your employees, right? So that was the first thing that I think, we needed to look at. There are a number of different ways that, I'm sure the whole panel here has been dealing with, which is, the convening and the storytelling on a virtual level, which is totally different. The health and welfare of our employees, because as you know, we're all been there where I'm little dazed every now and then, like, what day is it? Where are we doing? How are we going to get this? I'm working harder than I've ever worked because I traveled a ton, and now I'm on a Zoom call for 9 hours straight, no matter what, and I can get very little done in the day and have to work after. So we're really looking to how does that change the whole course as we produce events, which may not happen. 5 basketball games were canceled today. How are we going to, that we were going to put on air? So there's that. The other piece I just wanted to share with you, which I'm really proud of, and I've been an advocate for, which is the word pivot and how it moves forward, but staying grounded. The first thing that people wanted us to do was to take up and move over and give money to, X, Y, and Z organization, which we already give money to, by the way, because they think money solves. And we know that it doesn't. It takes true commitment and transformational change. So one of the first things that we looked at, which is, and our employees were the base of this, which is, don't invite me to another town hall. I know what all of the issues are.
Oh, wait a minute. We love town halls, right? I thought we love town halls.
Yeah. I think everybody loves to convene. They like to know that everybody's on a page, but it's the script and narrative that they're tired of hearing about, right? Which is, you tell me about microaggressions one more time, I'm going to blow my top. Right? What we really need to know is how we're going to transformationally deal with those issues. And so we've been working on some really amazing things at ESPN about our, employment, our percentages and all that stuff. And we're coming out and, how we interview people to make sure, and we say very clearly, to make sure that Black and African Americans have the same access and equity as everything else. In our area, we immediately said, okay, we're not going to change our strategy. Our strategy is to use the power of sports for social change. Our 2 visions are to in youth spaces is to create access to sport for youth so everyone has an equal playing field. to reach the human potential. The other is to leadership and empowerment. What do they do with that once they have it, right? So we took that and we said, okay, so here's what we're going to do. Then we made the decision that 60% of all of our access and empowerment grants will go to Black and African American communities that are serving at a minimum 75% Black and African Americans. Now,
Yeah.
I said Black and African Americans. I didn't say brown, I didn't say et cetera. We're not leaving anyone behind, but we're also going to commit to true transactional, transformational commitment. After 400 years of making bad decisions and wrong things, we need to make sure that the change is real. And so that is our commitment. And you're going to start to see us roll out more of that, but on our same strategy, right? We're not changing everything. Youth sports is down. It was down 50% over the 50 years. And the programs that we just ran with Don't Retire Kid that we worked with, NBC on actually. And now with COVID, we believe it's going to be even harder for kids to get out and join teams. Well, if they're not joining teams, they're not sports fans, they're probably not watching ESPN. And so we need to be really smart about how we approach this.
Did you get any of you get any pushback? Oh, I forgot to mention. Please don't forget, if you got questions, please place them in the chat. We got about another 12 minutes left. Any pushback? Just 30 seconds. Any pushback from either internally or externally about how you'll address these social justice? Kevin, you got the floor, and then we'll check with Jessica and Kim on that too.
Yeah, I think that part of it was we were also in an election cycle, and so how we deal with Black Lives Matter and make sure that people know that it's not political. It's about equity and social justice. And that's really hard for, all these organizations. There's also news organizations, right? That can't be, those. So that was the first thing, is to make sure that our viewers understood what we were talking about. We ran our first Get Out to Vote campaign ever this year, ever at ESPN. And so that was a big win for us. But to your point, the elements of listening to our viewers and our employees, and as you know, the country is equally divided, but understanding that, movement and progression, not perfection, but progression is the article and catalyst.
Yeah, good. Jessica, real quick, any pushback on supporting issues like this? I think COVID is probably, everybody wants to do it unless you tell them to wear a mask and they don't want to, but any pushback on these areas?
I mean, I can't speak as much to the COVID piece. I mean, we obviously were actively involved in efforts around COVID. But as it relates to our social justice efforts, I mean, I think, we obviously had similar conversations to what Kevin is talking about around, like, we call it Meet the Moment at NBC. So how do we sort of take that mantra and meet the moment with our employees in ways that are not lectures and town halls, but that are moving us towards progress. And so, we've taken that seriously. And I think the pushback that we get philanthropically is really just, people wanting us to do more. But yeah, I mean, certainly understanding that traditional investments at this point was really about recalibrating for us. And similar to Kevin, we are really looking at Black-led organizations in, with major new money, in a way that really shifts power, and a way to invest in organizations that are closest to the solutions. And so much of that new money that I referenced is not to say that we're going to be giving out this much money, but it is really to say that we, our framework and our strategy includes these long-term investments that, hopefully will shift power and shift approach to giving across our industry, but across also, we know there's a lot of focus on this in the philanthropic industry.
Okay, thanks, Kim.
Well, I agree with all of what's been said. I would say the biggest question that we get both internally is what exactly are we doing? And I think that speaks to the conversation about, or the reality that people don't want to just feel like what we're doing is talking about stuff. They want to see tactile change being made and tactile commitment. And I think that that question is the same one that is in society, which is how is change going to be possible, and what does it look like? And so I think that to the degree that anytime and you know, I'm a historian, so I have the like sticker that says history takes time, but we know in all these moments that there are that, you know, like all the stuff that Dr. Martin Luther King said about, you know, tired of waiting, and that was this summer was we are tired of waiting moment, you know. And I think that it is being able to identify, like, okay, if we as a company, first of all, knowing that we as a company can't solve all the problems that are out there, you know, we can play our part, but I think that we as a company can be committed to being more tactile and specific about what we're doing to try to change, you know, changing from within our company, but then also like looking to organizations that we feel like have a lot of integrity and are making real change. But like as you know, as somebody who has a history background, I've been always, you know, very committed to the urgency of now kind of questions, and then at the same time, you know, what Jessica's talking about is we know these are long-term, you know, solving the issue of policing in our society, or just, you know, even addressing some of those complexities. Those are both urgent questions for now, and they're also long-term questions. So I think as a company, we're also doing that, which is the short term of what can we do right now, and then how do we pace ourselves for a longer haul and kind of a longer commitment, so that in 5 years, collectively, we can all show that things have changed. We might not be able to do that in 2 months, but, you know, maybe in small ways. But what we want is for us to be able to show some ways that there has been real change made together with our partners in 5 years, or even 2 years from now, or even a year from now. But I guess it's scaling at those different levels. And that's like where I do see like some pushback that companies are facing about, don't make another statement, you know, or it's okay to make a statement, but then back it up.
Right. And I already heard you were a historian, how smart you are. So Kirsten Brooks Young told me how smart you were too. Yeah, I recall back to you know, Fannie Lou Hamer said, she said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Sick and tired,
People
yeah.
are tired of just the talk, right? And it's one of the things when we started having conversations internally, it was like, let's walk the walk. Like, we can talk the talk we want. Look, we're a communication company. We're all communications company. We can talk all day. We can put out messages, but let's walk it, right? Let's be about the work that needs to be done, even if we don't even know totally what the work is, because I think sometimes we still try to figure it out. And then even if part of us figure it out, we got to convince or influence the other part of us to help get there. Like, what do we need to do to address this issue and to, you know, make some tangible, impactful changes? That's kind of one of the statements we had. We want a meaningful, tangible, impactful change. Sometimes just writing a check just won't do that, you know. And so, you know, it could help, but it has to be along with some other types of authentic things that we're doing. We've tried to look at, you know, how do we make investments in small businesses in local communities, or, you know, how we help some of the feeding areas, some of the kind of the unique things that are really, really dire towards this time. So it's not an easy task. It's an ongoing thing, and it's something that I think we probably individually and even collectively could work to do. And there's probably, and maybe we'll talk to Melissa more about C2HR, how do we come together and say, let's industry. I know we can do some things together from a programming side, but what can we do from let's make an impact from our industry standpoint? Maybe there's some opportunities there.
Well, by the way, I know that at Spectrum, you just reached your goal of helping 50,000 homes. So congratulations on that, because
thank you very much.
Like, one of the reminders that we've all had this year is that food and housing and schooling are some of the fundamentals of social justice. So you guys have done more than your share of contributing to these issues. So congratulations for that milestone.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, we just did it, and thanks to Kirsten and her team. You know, it's a long haul. It took us over 5 years to do it, but you know, when we're out in those communities, and it's something that I really value, and I know you all see this too. And our employees are out, and we're out, and it's not a number. It's just not like a tagline. We see that family being impacted, or those families or those communities really get the overall impact of what you're doing. And, you know, some of them are almost in tears. We've seen tears. Like I might have shared a couple myself from people who were like, I don't know how I would be able to do this without you all. And that's when you know, like, you know what, this is why this makes a difference. And I know we continue to experience this. You know, with the Navajo group, I was like, this is like important stuff. And I know NBC is going on across the board to make a difference because you're all in so many different places, both locally and internationally. I mean, just the reach that we all have, Kevin, we all have, I think can really be a terrific opportunity for us to continue to work in these spaces. Yeah, as we come to the close here, I'd love for you all to kind of finish this out. I mean, this is an HR organization. I mean, we probably have some HR professionals, some HR business partners on the line who are like, yeah, I want to know what's my response, right? They probably asked you all already, what's my response when I have employees saying, what can I do? Or what can we do? You know, whether it's an internal program themselves or, you know, volunteer opportunity, like what's your typical response? Or what's a response, kind of a general response that we can all arm our HR leaders with as they talk to employees within our organizations. Let's start with you, Jessica.
I mean, what we talk a lot about is that mantra of identifying why you serve and how you individually can be an advocate for service, right? And in these companies that we all represent, you know, we have hundreds of thousands of employees. Not everybody is going to want to show up to do service or want to be part of this conversation. And we don't want to turn anybody away who's diametrically opposed to these views either, right? So we have to make it an open space for everybody. So I think, you know, when we talk to our HR professionals, we are focused, as I started off, thinking about where we can integrate constructive leadership and social impact to really broaden that conversation about those leadership principles around courage and resilience and empathy and bring those to life through service. So, you know, that's something everybody can really reflect on themselves. But what you as an individual employee can do, I think it really matters. It really depends on how much you want to give. You know, there's sort of this journey that we offer, you know, from those one touch moments, which is what some people want, to those deeper moments of service, to really being, you know, an ambassador for the work. So, you know, and then I think as everybody else has had this conversation, it's really becoming educated. So if you really care about an issue or you really want to be involved in an issue, you really have to get educated on that issue. And so, you know, whether it's food insecurity in your community or homelessness in your community or access to youth sports in your community, we've really helped our employees try to get educated on those issues so that they can act how they feel, you know, is appropriate.
Great. Thank you. Kevin, real quick, you.
Yeah, a ditto, Jessica. So, you know, I have this big sign in my office that says cause not charity. And it's about commitment, and it's about being focused about, you know, we're not going to solve it for you, and nor is anyone else going to solve it for you, but you should create the future that you imagine, right? You need to be part of it. You also need to be a champion with the rest of the team, which is, it's one thing to you know, to be out there and starting your own nonprofit and believing and, you know, thinking you have the course, but, you know, if we've learned anything, if we work together, we get exponential results. And so that's the piece is join a movement, but be part of it and look at how you can join other movements that you're not even familiar with. The education piece, Jessa, amen on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Kim, close us out.
Well, yeah, I think those are all really great points. And I think the one other thing I would say is some people are probably here from big organizations like ESPN and NBC and A&E networks. Some people may be from smaller organizations. And I think, like, if that's the case, like, I think the biggest thing that I've learned from the mentors that I've had is just to pick some stuff and go with it. Like, and, you know, try to pick things that feel like they connect to your organization and connect to your brand, try to get some input, but also remember that you can't pick everything. So, like, kind of pick some things and commit to them. And like, don't be afraid to kind of put some boundaries around the work you do, because I think that we all have these moments where we have to define a little bit about what our priorities are, and that helps all of the projects and initiatives to be more effective if you're not trying to do too much. And so that's something, a big lesson that I've learned over time that I think has been helpful to me is to get some boundaries around the projects that you're doing, but also try to make them broad enough that they can achieve multiple goals, but then specific enough that you can kind of answer the question about what your focus is.
Great. Thank you very much. And, hopefully, and I said this earlier, hopefully we get a chance to work together in some form, with NBC, A&E, ESPN, all different brands. If we can work through our content distribution and acquisition and teams, we'd love to see how we can partner together and make a difference. It's not an easy thing to do. I mean, we've all been impacted by COVID, and I know this is going to be a tough year, but let's look for the best in 2021, and hopefully we can make a even more of a tangible difference in 2021. So Kim, Jessica, and Kevin, thank you all so much for participating and being a part of this. I really enjoyed it. I think I could have sat here for another 2 hours and talked about this stuff, but we've probably bored the rest of everybody else to death. But this is really meaningful work, and the ability for us to work within our companies to make a strong difference, and the show, to have our Charter Communications or Spectrum brand or your individual brands out there working amongst communities and not just doing things to communities, but working with communities to help solve problems. I think it means a world of difference. So thank you all so much for participating. I really enjoyed it. And I'm gonna turn it back over to Melissa at C2H.
Thank you. What a great discussion. Many thanks to the four of you and for everyone who's joined us here today. We do have a variety of resources related to social good on the C2HR website. It's in the Knowledge Center. You'll find dozens of articles, including information on all of the initiatives that were talked about today. And we'd like to give a shout out to our three sponsors, NCTI, Anthem, and Kelly Dry, for their support in making this program free for everyone to participate in today. So thank you.